All right, hey everybody, we're gonna start the workshop now. My name's Jimmy. I'm good with pixel art apparently, and I'm gonna teach you how to do that. Slides are for suckers, but I'm gonna get through these as fast as possible. Let me just show you a new slide. For anybody that doesn't know, that's a pixel. Go forth, make games be awesome. No, I'm just joking. So if I do some sort of image like this, that is called pixel art. And that's also known as a sprite, which a sprite is just an image made out of pixels. So when you hear me use the word sprite art, that's the same thing as saying pixel art or an image. Let's get into these slides. So I'm probably going to make these quick so that we can get into the actual drawing parts. So when we're doing pixel art, we usually want to be very concise, or we want to be very straight and smooth with our lines when we're drawing. What else? Lighting. So lighting and shading is what's going to make your image come out. So like I did at the bottom, what I start with is that I usually go with a square, which is this base color in the middle. And then what I do is that I add lighting to the left side and the bottom. And then I add it so that I kind of like add another layer of shading by putting a circle around that. And then I put a shading of light, layer of lighting by putting a light square around that. And then I put another one, light square around that. So it kind of looks like this gummy thing that I want to put in my mouth. Outlines. So I don't usually do this in my art that often, but when you make a shape, you make like a object or something like this, you would start out with just like a simple sprite. And then if you wanted to do this to make your character pop out more, you would give a thick outlining to it by making it black. And if you were to add more onto that, you'd add more detailed outlining, which is basically you taking the outline and then kind of coloring it over it to make it so that it's not completely black, but is darker than the rest of the image around it. So you notice that Sai is like in this frame is like all black, and then like at this end right here it's still red, but it's still like it's a much darker red. So to get into the actual pixel art part, everybody get open paint.net for me real quick, and we're just gonna go over the basics of how the program works. So get rid of this garbage. Dang it, no, never mind, we're not gonna do that. So everybody that doesn't know, so we're going to go down the tools down the line. So this blue box in the corner right here is just a selection tool. So you can make a selection like this. And then so whatever you do is constricted within this box. So if I were to like draw, it would stay in this box. And then I can also take, using this blue arrow right here, I can take what's in the box and move it around however I want. This lasso tool is another selection tool. So instead of making a box like this to make a selection, you would make a lasso that wherever you draw, it fills in the area. I never use it. You probably will never use it. It doesn't matter that much. You can do a circle one as well. So you make a circle, and magic wand. I had to think about what it's called for a second. So the magic wand, what it does is that if I were to like draw something like a line right here, and I were to just want to select the red area, I would click on this magic wand and it would select all of it for me. So if everyone like, hang on, let me get out this marker. So this is the marker that you're going to be using for pixel art. You can make it as thick as you want it to be, make it as thin as you want, up to 1 pixel. And what you'll notice is that it looks really bad because it has like all of this, you see all this transparent like pink, red stuff around it. That's garbage. We don't want that. It's called anti-aliasing, which makes it so that if you're zoomed out, it looks a lot smoother, but like because we're working with pixel art, we want our edges to be very sharp. So how to fix this is that everyone's in a new file, right? Like has it open. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go up here. Do you see this line, this little ribbon up here, and it has this little icon that's like this line with like 3 circles in it? Does everyone see that? So what we're gonna do is click on this down arrow, and it says anti-aliasing enabled. We're gonna disable that. So if you disable it, you should get a line like that. Is everyone good? I'm gonna take that as a yes. And while we're up here, you can take this. It says selection quality right here. You'll see this blue box with like circles in it. If you press this down arrow right here, you can go from anti-alias selection quality to pixelated selection quality, which makes it so that when you like select something and move it, it's a lot sharper to what pixel art is supposed to be like. There's this white arrow right here is just a way to like move your selection. So if you wanted to move your selection, let's say I wanted to select this happy face I just made over here. If I were to move it here, I could just reselect it as such, like just picking up the selection tool again and then dragging it onto this happy face again. But one thing I can do is if I made a box over here and I wanted to move this, if I wanted to move this box and just have it so that I select the happy face instead, if I were to press the blue arrow, I'd move it so that the whole white box gets taken with it and it goes over the happy face, which is what we don't want. If we were to move it, so we just move the selection, we'd move this whole box by pressing the white arrow and taking it over to the happy face. And then we can like go back to the blue arrow and move around the happy face however we want. There's a simple, this is just a magnifying glass. Y'all know what this does. Left click to zoom in, right click to zoom out. But I never click on this because there's one shortcut that you can do if you have a mouse. So if you hold, if you have a Windows key, Windows OS, if you hold Control and use the middle scroll, if you scroll in, you can zoom in and you can zoom out just by holding Control. No matter what tool you're on, it'll always do this. Or you can just, if you don't have a mouse, it's pretty hard to do, so you can just click on the magnifying glass and zoom in and zoom out. This is a hand tool. It's pan. Basically, it's just if you're really zoomed in, you can just drag it around. So if you want to see area, you can also see different area if you wanted to center this happy face by using the scroll bar at the bottom of the screen to just do this. Or instead of clicking on the hand entirely, you can be on any tool you want. And if you just middle click, if you press into the like middle scroll, it'll drag wherever you want. What next? This is a gradient tool. It makes it so that you have two colors down here. If I were to make a selection, such as this using the blue box, and if I were to press gradient, I could drag anywhere and it would take the secondary color and the primary color and it would make a gradient out of it. I don't often use this, but it's just something you can do. Eraser tool, pretty self-explanatory. It's an eraser. It's crazy. Eyedropper tool, again, basic. If I want this color, I can click, I can left click and it'll save it as my primary color. If I right click, it'll save it as my secondary color. I'm going to change that back to primary color. What next? Text. There you go. Crazy. It's your line art tool. Right here is your line art tool where you can just drag and it'll make any line you want. If you want to change the brush width, it'll change the width of the line as well. And you can go right here, you can make an arrow if you want, or you can use the rounded tool however you want. And then you can make this line dotted if you want, or whatever. You get the idea. I'm going to change that back to normal. All right. I think that's so. What we're going to do is we're going to use what we've learned so far, and we're going to make, I don't know if you've heard of this video game character or not, but we're going to draw Kirby. He's a literal circle. So if we were to plan this out, one thing I also do, before I do a lot of sprite art, what I do is I draw it out in my head, just so I can see.
So how do you get it so it looks more pixelated? Because like on mine, it's not as pixelated as yours.
It's not as pixelated. Oh, did you zoom in a lot?
Zoom in a lot?
Yeah, I just zoom in a lot.
Okay.
This canvas, the canvas that you start out with is like extremely big. So we're not going to be using this one for much often. We're going to actually open, we're going to open a new file, and we're going to, wait, did everyone see how I made a new file, by the way? Go to this white piece of paper in the corner to make a new file. And we're going to make a canvas that's just, let's say 100 in width and then 100 in height. So that should be like enough to make it look pixelated. So this is what it starts out with. If you zoom in, then you'll probably be able to actually see all your pixels. One thing you can also do, I should have mentioned this earlier, is does everybody see this this kind of like grid or like filter at the top right here that I'm hovering over? If you click that, look at all those pixels. And it'll show all of them individually so that you don't get confused on like which pixel you're on. And there's a ruler tool as well. I never use the ruler tool. It's pretty much worthless once you have the grid filter on. But yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how to draw a Kirby. So I'm gonna draw it out first. If we go and we get our brush tool, which allows us to just make any pixel size that we want, you could just make a big circle by going to the shape tool, and up here, instead of doing rectangle, you could do just ellipse and then draw a circle. But I don't do that because it's much easier to make a perfect circle by just using the brush tool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna make the body of Kirby at 24 pixels is usually what I do. So if you zoom in, it'll probably be better. And what I'm gonna do is you can use any color that you want. If you go to more right here, you can click on here and it'll show you not only more colors to choose from that it defaultly starts out as in its default palette, but you can also see the RGB values. Everyone knows what RGB is, right? By the way. Okay, just making sure. And then you got hue and saturation, which just changes it so that funky rainbow party. And you got this is pretty much your brightness right here. If you put this towards 0, it's absolute white. Everything in between is just light. And then there's I don't even know what it stands for, but it's V and value. Is it value specifically? Well, it's value. And if you drag this towards 0, it gets darker and darker. So now we got our colors out of the way. I'm gonna choose a color like light pink. If you go, it comes in the default palette. If you go to magenta and you go 2 down, you can find a pretty reasonable pink. So what I'm gonna do, actually, before I do that, I'm gonna go over the layers. So right now, you'll notice that you only have a background layer right here. So if you press this if you press this box with this plus right here, you'll do add new layer. So go ahead and click on that. You can rename this layer if you want. If you double click on it, it'll open up the layer properties, and then you can in this box, Grammarly. I'll put just body, just because this is where Kirby's body is gonna go. And then to make a perfect circle, all you gotta do is put out the brush tool, and you just click once. Look at that, it's a circle. Isn't that crazy? So usually I save the shading for last, but I think we might as well go over the shading now, just because. So, like I did earlier, if I'm gonna get this out. Like I did earlier, what I did was that I started with my main color in the middle over here, and then I got my darkest color on the end, and then I just went up through the scale. So I had my darkest color, and I had a generally dark color, and then I had a lighter color, and then I had my lightest color at the end. So we're kind of gonna do the same thing. So right now we have our what I call our base color. So this is our color that we start out with. So we're gonna get our darkest color and then move up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this value right here where it says 100 and it shows the going from pink to like black, and we're gonna change that to let's do like 74. It doesn't matter. Somewhere in between like 100 and 50. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna zoom in by either pressing the magnifying glass or by holding Control and then using the scroll. And what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna press this magic wand, because if I didn't press the magic wand, I could do this, right? But if I do press the magic wand, then I can make as many mistakes outside of this line, and I won't go outside the line. So go ahead and use your magic wand to click on that pink circle we just made. And then what we can do using our dark color that we just got is we can just color in the left side and the bottom side, like such. And if you want, you can add 2 layers as well. I might do that just because. That's our darkest color that I just put in right there. Actually, I'm just going to do this because this is making me mad. This is our darkest color that we have. And now we're going to add our second to darkest color by choosing a value in between the darkest color that I have, which is at 73 value, and 100. So I'm going to choose like 85 is probably good enough. So what I can do with this is that I'm just going to do the same thing where I make a dark shade. Actually, before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the magic wand again, because what I can do still is I can still color over the darker shading that we have, and we don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the magic wand that we have, I'm going to click back on the pink part, and when you're clicking on the pink part, you'll notice that it doesn't actually, so what I want to do is make it so that it just highlights the pink part, but it's highlighting the black part as well because of this tolerance level that we have. So tolerance level, what it means is that the higher it is to 100, the more pixels it's going to like spread around. So just to show an example, don't do this, I'm just showing an example. If I were to have like a red, and I were to have like a slightly darker red, and I just wanted to select this red right here, if I had a high tolerance level, it would highlight both of them. So if I put it at a low tolerance level, it would just highlight the red one, the absolute red one. So there's that. What I usually do most of the time is, because I'm very like specific with the colors I use, I just set the tolerance down to 0 because it really doesn't matter that much. So what I'm going to do now that we have our tolerance at 0, I'm going to go ahead and click on this pink circle, and it should only highlight the absolute pink part. So what we're going to do now that we have just the pink part highlighted is that I'm going to go back and choose my value. I think I had at like 85 or whatever. It doesn't matter. Is that I'm going to do the same thing I did, where I am just going to make a shading that's on the left side and the bottom. Except once everyone's done with that, I'm going to do something different with it. So what we're going to do now with this, because it's not the absolute darkness, I still want to have it so that it's a bit more realistic. So what I'm going to do, instead of just like putting another layer, is I'm going to actually, instead of just putting it on the bottom half and then on the left side, is I'm going to make like an entire like dark ring around the circle by doing this. So everybody go ahead and do this with me. And I'll put like an extra pixel like here, there, get fancy with it, do what you want. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to take out our magic wand again, and we're going to click on the absolute pink part again, which is our base color, so that we just constrict it there. So now what we're going to do, so we have both of our shadings down. Now what we're going to do is add our lighting. So let's get out our color picker tool, which is the syringe, and we're going to click on our base color, which is our pink. And now what we can do is that now that we have that pink, we're going to take, to add lighting, instead of making the color darker, we're going to make the color lighter. So what we can do now is you can take the the saturation, and we're going to take that from 50, and we're going to move it to like, let's say like 30. Yeah, wait, hang on, let me look. Yeah, 30 is good. 30, whatever color you want. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get out our brush width, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just gonna draw a circle in the top right corner to make this lighting effect. Actually, mine looks like garbage. I'm gonna redo that. Also, by the way, if you haven't gotten already. Control Z is undo. Control C is copy. Control V is paste. You get the idea. We're going to do this. Doesn't have to look perfect for now. You can polish it later if you want. I might do right now while I'm waiting. All right, so we can add another layer of lighting by taking our magic wand again, selecting the lighter color that we just added so that we only color inside that area so that we don't color out of it. And we're going to get our brush tool again, and we're going to change our color from 30 to like 14, somewhere in between 0 and that last color we just chose. So I'm going to choose 14. And I'm just going to put a small circle inside. So then if we were to get rid of all our selection, you can get rid of your selection. How I do it is I just take the any of these selections like this blue square, and I just click anywhere once without dragging. So your circle should look something like this. Good job. You made a circle with shading. I'm proud of you guys. Pat on the back. So what we can do with this, so this is our body. I'm gonna get rid of these because I was just using an example with these. We got one layer done. I think we have like 2 more to go. It's not that hard. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is go back to where we can add a new layer, which is by pressing this blue box with a plus next to it, and we can make a new layer right here, and we can double click on layer 3 and we can add whatever name we want. So I'm going to put hand nub thingy. I don't know what it is. It's basically, if you don't know how to draw a Kirby hand, it's pretty hard. All you got to do is make a smaller circle than we already have and just attach it to him. So what we're going to do is for the hand, I usually use like a value between 8 and 10. I'm going to do 8 just because. And we're just going to click anywhere. So what we're going to do is the same thing as before. I'm going to use my color picker, my syringe tool, to click on the middle color, which is our base color, the pink. Oh, wait. You have to click back on your body and then click on the pink because it still thinks that you're on that layer, so it thinks that you wanted to select transparent when you didn't. So should have this pink right here, and what we can do with this now is that we can make a Kirby hand by just taking a value like 8 and just making a circle. So we're going to basically do the same thing that we did already, except it's just going to be a bit smaller, so it should be quicker. So what we're going to do is go back to our body layer and use the syringe tool on our darkest color, and then use that darkest color to go back to our layer that we had before, and we're just gonna color this part right here and color the left side and color the bottom, and we're gonna go back to our body layer and we're gonna get this color in between right here again by using the syringe tool. So we click on that, and then we can go back to our hand layer and we can just make a circle around it that we have. So it should look something like this as of right now. We can go back to our body layer and get our light color by using the syringe tool on here, and we can just put some lighting right there. So what we're gonna do with this now is that because Kirby has 2 hands, if you didn't know, we're gonna take this hand layer and we're just gonna duplicate it to make the right hand. So how we do that is that we go down to here where it shows 2 boxes and it says duplicate layer, and we're just going to click on that once. It should make the same layer, So you should have two hands if you were to drag them apart by pressing the blue triangle tool. I forgot what it's called for a second. So now what we can do is that we can just put Kirby's hands. We can take his hands and we can put them where they're supposed to be, right here. And we can do the same thing for the right hand. So it should be like this, or something like this. You might notice that this right hand right here is in front of the body. We can take it behind the body by just taking, wait, it's this one. Yeah, we can do this by taking our top layer, which is the hand that's on the right side, and we can just take this layer and we can drag it down. So now the layer should be behind the body. And I'm going to actually take this. Now that I see it, I'm going to take this hand. I'm going to make it closer because it looks kind of weird. So it should look like that. What we can do next, we got it next. The feet. The feet. You got to add the feet next. So what we can do is that go to our top layer, which would be our ham nub thingy. And we're going to go again and we're going to make a new layer. And we're going to double click on layer 5. And we're just going to name it feet. So what we can do with this is you can grab whatever color you want again. I'm going to choose something other than pink so that it doesn't look like he's barefoot. So I'm just going to choose this red right here. And for the base of the foot, the optimal size of it would probably be, if I had to estimate, like 10. I think that's pretty optimal. So what we can do, I'm going to do it away from the body just so I can practice with this. Draw a 10, a circle that's 10 pixels wide, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna make another circle. So we're gonna change this brush size to something something smaller, like 8. Yeah, I think 8's an optimal size. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw another circle like right next to it. And we're going to make sure that the bottom of this circle is at the same height as the bottom of this bigger circle. So what we can do is that we can get out our line tool, or you can just do it by using the pencil tool. By the way, the pencil tool is just the brush tool, but it's 1 pixel wide at all times. What we can do is that we can use the pencil tool to just draw in this connection. So what I usually do is do that. One thing I noticed when making this is that the foot is very long. It's about as long as him. So what I can do is, because it's on its own layer, is that I can just take this foot and I can move it closer. I can select it by using the select tool, or the box, the blue box in the corner. And I can use the move selected pixels, the blue triangle, to just move it in as such. And if I think that the foot is too tall, which I personally do, what we can do is that we can make another selection by going back to the blue box and dragging it over the long way, the hot dog style. And we can move this up a pixel. You can move it up a pixel by either dragging it, or you can press the arrow keys to go up and down a pixel each. So then once I got this foot, I'm personally gonna chisel this out a bit so that it looks less weird. So I'm gonna make this like this. I'm gonna make this side smoother. Yeah, it looks like a foot to me. So anyways, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our shading and lighting technique. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a value of, let's say roughly 60 is too much. How about like 70? 70 is good. So what we can do is that we just color the left side and the bottom side so that it's like such. And then what we can do is color the foot again, but this time we can use a value in between 70 and 100. So I'm going to choose 83, I guess. It's just the first one I picked. And we're going to color around this foot as such. Cool. And now what we can do is add lighting by putting the red color value back to 100, and then we're going to decrease its saturation. So I'm going to choose roughly 60, and I'm just going to make a circle. Like, I'm going to fill in an area inside the foot. I'm doing this manually as opposed to like getting the brush. I'm doing this pixel by pixel instead of using the brush tool because it's just a much smaller area and I want to be more precise. So instead of making circles, I'm just going to put it in an area like that. So you can just put in whatever area you want. And then if you want, the area is pretty small, but if you want, you can add another layer of lighting by choosing a color that's even brighter than 60. I'm going to choose like 40 or 38 or something. And I'm going to color just that area so that it's even closer to the upper right side. So that is a Kirby foot. And we're going to attach this to our little bitch. All right, take the foot using the selection tool, drag the foot using I said purple. It's a blue arrow, and we're just going to attach it like such. You can put it behind the body by dragging the feet layer all the way down, but not further. If you put it under the background, it's just not there. So put it above the background like such. And you can adjust it accordingly. If we want another foot, what we can do is we could duplicate the layer, but one thing we can also do is while the whole foot is still selected, actually I'm gonna, just so that you can see it clearer, if I click on this check mark, I can click off of it and it disappears. Just momentarily so that we can see what we're working with clearer. So if I want to duplicate this foot, what I can do is just do Control C, Control V, and then drag it away, and it's another foot. And if I want to flip it, what we can do is just grab this corner. You see this small circle on the left side? What we can do is just drag it to the other side. And it will be exactly even with, if you want to know how we make it so that it's like exactly even, so that's the same width as the other foot, what we can do is we can look at what value it is at the beginning. So we can see, okay, you see this, it's 16 by 9. So that's 16 pixels wide and then 9 pixels tall. So when we flip the foot over, it should be the exact same value. It should be 16 by 9 once we flip it over, that it'll be exactly the same width. So we can do that. So we can watch, you can watch the bottom number, and you can see that it goes from 15, 14, 13, and then once I flip it over, then it will be at 16 and it'll look exactly the same as it was, except flipped. So we can drag this back. Let's re-check mark every layer again, just so that we can remember where everything's specifically at. And now let's drag this foot back to Kirby as such. And one thing I did notice is that the lighting and shading is mirrored. If you want to change it, you can. Actually, I might do that real quick. It's not that hard to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change everything back to red and then just redo it. One thing also, I just want to show you a shortcut. If you want to fill, so what you normally do, you're probably thinking, oh, I have to do this. I have to click this one, then I have to click this pixel, then this one. You don't have to do that. If you want to color every pixel that's shaded slightly darker red into our base color of red, what you can do instead of clicking every one individually is that if you hold down shift and then left click while you're on the fill tool, it'll fill all of them immediately. So that's a cool shortcut. And then we're going to do fill this one, then fill this one, and could fill these 3 like such, or we could again hold shift, left click with the fill tool, and it'll fill all of them. So I'm gonna redo the shading real quick. So hold it on this side, draw on this side, and then because it's on the same layer, we can just take our syringe tool and then just copy the layers, the specific colors over. So I'm gonna make the shading here. And then to get to the lighting, I'm going to take this syringe tool, put it on this slightly lighter color, and then color whatever I feel like. So like right here, then right here, and then I'm going to take my lightest color and I'm just going to put some lighting like right here. You can go crazy with it. It doesn't really matter that much. So now we have 2 fully shaded beats. So if you enable the body layer again, it's a Kirby. That's crazy, without a face. And we can add a face by clicking on our top layer and then going to add new layer, getting out your pencil tool, and you can select the black color. There he is. And you can use this eraser tool to clean up some of it like I did, instead of just drawing a random smile. Kirby. There he is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, usually it doesn't take 44 minutes, but you know, I was explaining it while I was doing it. So there it is. If I want to change the color, what I can do is I can do the shift click thing that I just told you. So if I want to take this blue right here and I want this to be my darkest color, I can just hold shift, left click, and now all the colors are blue. One thing I just forgot about the outlining. So we're gonna do the outlining real quick. So I forgot to name layer 6 face. That's his face. You don't really need to make another layer. I'll just make one anyways, just to make it clear. I'm gonna make another layer, layer 7, and I'm gonna name this one outline. So this will be our black outline that's going around the Kirby. So I'm gonna take our black again, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make this whole thing black. All right, that's the black outline around it. So now if we want to go on to the next step that was described in the slides, which is where we take the, where we, remember we did a black outline, and what we did is that we added color around the outline that was just slightly darker than the color on the inside. So what we can do is, where there are all the pink parts of Kirby, actually first, before you do anything else, take your magic wand tool, and just so that we're coloring the outline and not everything else around it, what we can do is hold shift and click on any part of the black outline, and then that whole outline should be highlighted. So now what we can do is that we can go back to pink, or we can do magenta or any color. And we're going to choose a pretty dark color, but not one that's necessarily pitch black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose magenta, which is a hex value of 255 on red and blue, and then 0 on green. And I'm going to change its value down to roughly 56. And because we're only because we only have to worry about coloring the outline part, we can make this brush pretty much as big as we want. Just you can what my plan is that I'm gonna make like this top half that's like pointed towards the lighting. I'm gonna make this like a slightly brighter pink than the second half. So what I'm gonna do is from here, let me visualize my plan. From here to like here, this half up here, I'm going to make a slightly brighter, like outlined pink than this bottom half here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reselect everything, and I'm going to change my brush to like 10. And I'm just going to color this top half. And if you look closely, if I were to unselect this, you can see that the lighting is just slightly brighter and slightly more pink than it was just being completely pitch black. And in fact, what I'm going to do now is that I kind of want it to be a bit more bright, a bit brighter. So I'm going to change my value, my darkness value from 56 to like roughly 70. And now let's do shift left click on that part that we just highlighted, and now it should be slightly brighter. So there's still half of it that's still pitch black, and now what we can do is that we can get a value that's roughly like 36, and we can hold shift and left click on the second half, and now that half should be highlighted as well. So if I were to get, it's kind of hard to see with the grid, but if I were to take it off the grid, it would look something like that. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the highlighted part. And one thing, I guess now that we have extra time, one thing I could mention is that, so you can see how, one thing you can notice is that if you're paying attention, we were making shading and lighting by changing our values of darkness and brightness exactly. If you want to get a bit more creative, what I like to do is that instead of changing lighting and shading based off of exact values, I change lighting and shading based off of colors. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's go to our body, and I'm gonna highlight the pink that we just had. And instead of changing this value so that it gets darker as this, what I'm going to do is change the value of our RVG levels. So what I'm going to do, if I change this G value to like, let's say 50, and then I change this R value, let's change this R value to like roughly 200. Then instead of getting a dark pink, we get a purple instead. There's a difference, I promise. And then if we wanted to get a lighter value, we can syringe tool back onto our main color. And instead of getting a lighter value by changing our saturation as such, we can get a lighter value by changing our values over here. So I'm going to increase my green value, and then also decrease my blue value, and then increase my green value instead. So that instead of our lightest color being just a light pink, our brightest color is like kind of a bright yellow. It's kind of interesting. So what I'm going to do, actually, now that I think about it, is what I can do is I'm going to merge down all my layers. You can merge down your layers by pressing down this. There's this blue box that goes to a down arrow. And then you can just click this and it'll merge your top layer down to your second top layer. And if you keep doing it until you just have the Kirby and then the backgrounds. So what I'm going to do also is, so we have our brightest color and we have our darkest color. And now what I'm going to do is get the colors in between. So I'm going to syringe tool our base color, and then I'm going to change our opacity to about halfway, which is like roughly 127, or this is close enough. So if you don't know what opacity is, it's transparency. So if I were to like just highlight this whole thing, it would only half change to pink, if that makes sense. So to get our colors in between, I'm going to click on our brightest color with our base color that's only at half transparency. So this color and then this color. So then this color in here will be our second to brightest color, and this color in here will be our second to lowest color. So real quick, I'm going to change it, the shade of my Kirby's body to be a little bit more colorful by using, so what I'm going to do is take the syringe tool, go to my lowest, my darkest color, which is now purple instead of like just dark pink. I'm going to click on that, go to my fill bucket tool, and where our darkest color was, I'm going to hold shift and then left click. So now instead of it being a dark pink, it's purple. And I'm going to take this color in between here and this Venn diagram looking thing and just left click here to get that syringe, to get that color. And I'm just going to hold shift and left click with the fill tool to change this color to the new color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our second to brightest color, this color in here, by using the syringe tool and going to the fill bucket tool, and then hovering over here and then holding shift and left click with the fill bucket. And I'm going to do that once more. And now you can see that our Kirby is a lot more colorful than it used to be. Just to put it in comparison, I'm going to copy this and then undo a bunch so you can see what it used to look like. So that's old Kirby. That's our new one. And you can see that it's a lot more colorful. And we can do the same thing with the feet as well. Instead of just using light red, we could use like an orange. And then instead of using like a dark red, we could use like a purple. You can really experiment with colors. I like to just experiment with colors a lot by just taking like red and then like seeing what colors would go well with it by taking like blue and then like changing its transparency to like make a nice purple, which would be good as a dark color. We still got 5 minutes. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change its red so that it's darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a red here, a red here. I'm just going to put a bunch of red here, just in this whole area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take orange as my brightest color. I'm going to take yellow as my brightest color. I'm going to put its transparency as halfway at 128. And so if you mix it with this red, it should give you an orange. If you take, if you go to blue and put its transparency at roughly 128, and you mix it with red, you'll get a purple. And then if you take your base color for the feet, which is red, and then you put that at transparency, that's halfway, and you mix it with the new dark color we just made and the new bright color we just made the colors in between. So now what we're going to do is that I'm going to select new Kirby's feet right here, and I'm going to just change the colors as such. So I'm going to syringe tool here, and I'm going to shift click and change his feet. So his feet change from dark red to purple. I'm going to take this color right here and just do the same thing for each color. All right. Finished Kirby. I promise I'm not gonna make any more changes. And yeah, whatever one that you like think feels better, it's just up to you. Art is subjective. You can draw whatever you want, however you want. No one's gonna tell you no. Do whatever you want. It's a free country. And I think that's the workshop. So I get to say the funny thing. Go forth, make games, be awesome, get money.